There's been some interesting data out this week. The Zimbabwe National Statistics Agency says that there are more than 700,000 Zimbabweans who are living in South Africa. The majority of those people are believed to be men. According to the Department of Home Affairs here at home, 178,000 Zimbabweans live and work in the country on legal permits. Joining us to make sense of these numbers and what impact they have on Zimbabweans who are seeking to extend their stay in South Africa, we can speak to Dr Vusi Sibanda with the Africa Diaspora Global Network. He's president there. A very good afternoon to you, Doctor. Thank you for your time. So 773,000 odd Zimbabweans are said to be in South Africa, legally at least, but is that even an accurate number when you consider the illegal immigration aspect?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Well, we don't know that when they're saying that 773,000 Zimbabweans are in South Africa legally, and where are they getting that information and the statistics there too, because, you know, this far, I think the general belief has been that the greatest number of Zimbabweans in South Africa are those using the exemption permits, and that was sitting at 178,000. So that statistics implies that, you know, other Zimbabweans that are on, you know, other mainstream visas is obviously over 500,000. And that's quite a huge number. So that's quite some information. And one would wonder that the authenticity of the fact that that 773 includes, are people that are legally in the country. Where does it come from? Because it has to tally with the South African Department of Home Affairs information. And I don't think that is what the South African Department of Home Affairs has got that information in that way, because it definitely has got smaller numbers from what we've had.
That massive gap will be crucial, won't it? Especially if South Africa, well, Pretoria and Harare want to have constructive conversations around the issue of immigration and the broader ZEP issue. Yes, they're coming to an end now with a 6-month extension, but the issue of immigration movement between the two countries will remain.
Very true. That information obviously will get, the South African government and even citizens more incensed, because that number, especially, when it is coming from Zimbabwe, it shows, that there is something that is seriously, not in place that needs to be addressed, because you cannot be talking about, almost 1 million people, in a country that has got approximately about 15 million people outside the country and only in one country. So that kind of statistics is very, very bothersome.
I was quite struck by this data. 58% of the people who the stats agency in Zim says have immigrated are in fact professionals. Some are in services, they work in sales, as well as other industries. And you wonder what that means. They say 58% of the people who've left are in those categories. What that means then for Zimbabwe's hopes of rebuilding, which is a project that, yes, is yet to get off the ground. But if they want to do it, how do you do it when people are taking their skills essentially and going elsewhere?
Well, obviously that tells us that the country is in it's actually in an autopilot state, where basically the autopilot itself is not functional, because if you've got 58% of people in the service industry outside the country, what that means in essence is that, the hope of saying, that country can be rebuilt is nowhere, because the brain drain that the country is experiencing, and considering that the bulk of the education of those people is subsidized by government, it means that the government's purse is continuously pouring money out, because it is, financing, people to do their education so that they can leave the country. And that needs to be addressed, and the country cannot even recover what it is putting into education.
It'll also no doubt fuel then the conversation around the scramble for limited resources in South Africa, where unemployment is at historic highs, yet more and more people are coming to take work either in the informal or even formal sector.
Very true. And I think that is where, for example, the South African government needs to come in, because if the Zimbabwean, authorities are releasing that kind of statistics, it is only clear that, the South African government needs to sit down with its counterparts in Zimbabwe, and say, can you explain to us that exactly, in fact, they don't need to be explained to, because the South African government is aware of the crisis that is in Zimbabwe, that is leading people to leave that country. And as a result, it is upon the South African government to then stand up and say, how do we address this problem so that the problem of Zimbabwe does not spill into South Africa, so that we've got a dual problem. Zimbabwe is a problem, but now it is leasing and, subletting all its problems to South Africa. That is unacceptable.
Briefly, could next year's election in Zimbabwe change anything?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, look, we've seen it over the last 4 decades. And the last election, when President Mnangagwa came in, people were even shot and killed in broad daylight, as if we saw, movie style kind of, clips that were taking place there. So if we are to think that a government that is in power, that managed to ascend, to that office through a coup, and that has got a lot to lose if a new government comes in, and then we expect that anything should happen, I think we're going to be people that are daydreaming and that are too far removed from reality. There is no change that's going to happen. There is no new political power that's going to come in through elections in Zimbabwe, not anytime soon.
Dr. Vusi Sibanda, let's leave it on that note. Thank you for your time, sir. Still to come.